Welcome to the Joy Quota Podcast. I'm Dylan Fole.
I'm Gavin Malcolm.
Our guest tonight is Alli Marti.
My amazingly better half, incredible wife, and our incredible roommate.
Incredible roommate.
She gets to tell the story of one of the world's only surprise weddings that she pulled off in record time. I promise no one has done anything like this in this amount of time. She talks about having her amazing job as an actual mermaid. This is a super fun one.
I feel so official all of a sudden.
Yeah, you look official. You look ready to go.
Thank you.
Yeah. She did her vocal warm-ups before we got in here.
I didn't. I should have, though.
Yeah, what are your vocal warm-ups?
Different me's, obviously.
Yeah.
You got to go through all of the stages of me's.
Me,
your
I, you,
different
we.
tonal varieties. And then the alligator watermelons, obviously. Anything from
alligators like
Anchorman.
watermelon?
No, it's how you say it. You go alligator, watermelon, alligator, watermelon, alligator, watermelon,
Yeah.
and it like warms
never
up your
heard
vocal
this.
cords.
Well, you're supposed to really...
Alligator watermelon,
Yeah.
alligator watermelon, alligator watermelon.
And it helps
I like
you
it.
warm up your lips so that you're enunciating better.
So,
I need to enunciate better.
Yeah.
That's
I
one
do
thing I
as well.
mumble. Yeah.
And humming helps. So, like, if you can get that perfect, if your lips are tingling or, like, tickled when you're humming, you've hit, like, the perfect amount of air pressure.
Oh, it's like your resonant frequency.
Sure, but you can, like, change, like, the pitch. But that's, like, how you know you're pushing, like, the right amount.
Ah.
When you get that tickle.
Why do you know all this?
I took voice lessons a
Oh, that's
long
right.
time ago.
Not even that long ago. I was dating you when you took voice lessons last time.
Yeah.
Because you've done it a couple times, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to, at least, like, just one time, be with a professional.
I started, actually.
What?
Because, okay, there's a story behind it.
How
Because,
do I not know this?
I guess it was before we were living together. So one time I was out in California with Alex Landeros. Shout out to him. And he took me to this part. Well, he told me we were going to a party. We ended up going to somebody's apartment with like 5 people in it. But
Sometimes you
That
don't,
could be a
you don't
party.
know. Yeah.
well, so it was they were doing karaoke. And this was before, like, now we do karaoke all the time, and it's normal, and it's the best thing ever, but this was before I had ever done it.
Yeah, and I feel like you were, like, a little shyer then, too.
Definitely, but you know me and my favorite song, and what I wanted to do was Nicki Minaj Super Bass, which it turns out is a very ambitious song for your very first karaoke time ever. And not only did I know none of the words, it just sounded so bad that I got home from that trip and immediately went on Google and found somebody to give me voice lessons.
No.
And it didn't work. I didn't
But you
commit
did
to
learn
it.
the words to Super Bass. So
Yeah.
I did.
And you
I
can
did actually
rock
go
that
on,
song now.
Yeah, I did go on and study those words to know all the words.
I feel
that
like
song.
that specific story describes a lot of experiences with you. Like, you went and played ping pong and you were bad at it, so you went and bought a ping pong table and then just played against yourself for hours and hours and hours till you could go back and hold your own. Like,
I don't
pretty
like to be bad
amazing.
at stuff.
Yeah, I feel you.
see, if I'm bad at something, I just move on to something I'm good at. Like, if I start and I'm like, oh, I'm not good at this, I just do a quick calculation in my head of, like, how much effort I think it will take to get good at it. And unless it's pretty easy to get good at, I'm like, looks like that's just not going to be something I do. And then I just go do something else.
Right? Like Ableton, you're like, yeah, we're going to start remixing these songs. And you're like, oh, this is going to take up my whole hard drive?
It wasn't even that. I was just like, I looked at months before I could make even, like, a decent song.
Yeah.
Of, like, really putting in effort. And I was like, I think if at some point in my life, I'd definitely like to go be good at that. But I don't have an extra, like, 10 hours a week to just devote to this.
And even that,
Oh,
10 hours
that's
a week,
a long
it's gonna
shot.
be-
Yeah. It'd be like
you're not-
a year of doing 10 hours a week before I could be, like, good enough to make, like, a song someone wouldn't hate.
I want to so bad. That's
know.
like the highest on my list of things that I just will never do.
Yeah.
It's a dream. It's good to have dreams. You know?
Good to dream.
Tell us about dreams and goals.
It's something that I'm always learning about. I'll tell you that much. But I will, because this is something that I can't fathom, Dylan. I just don't know how to have a dream and be like, wow, it'd be so incredible to be able to do this thing and like whatever, like go on a train of thought and that be something so powerful to me and not make it into a game plan to actually achieve it. Does that make sense?
It does.
Like it doesn't just stay up in like
You don't get to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like some things are meant to just be a dream. Like, oh, it'd be so cool to go to the moon. Like, yeah, if I ever got the chance, I'd go in a heartbeat to go into space. But, like, I'm in no way committed to going to outer space, but I love to think about how fun it would be. Versus, like, Alli will be like, well, all right, that's now my number one priority. And then just, like, the next day you're like, so I looked it up. This is how much it costs. These are the different regimens. I looked up the diet you need to be on. I looked up what physical requirements are there. And it's like, did you get to actually enjoy just thinking about how fun that would be for any length of time before you just took all of the joy out of it and made it this impossible goal?
I don't think she takes all the joy out of it. I think there is a huge joy in writing a list of things to accomplish. It's in this particular case with the making music, it just doesn't get onto the priority list.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's a dream.
Like between the podcast and 2 YouTube channels and this card game and the surf park business plan and the Nug Nation and video editing, I just don't have time right now.
Yeah, but it's still fun to think about it, right?
Yeah.
So that's the difference when, like, I can think about something and I'll be like, wow, that's such a wonderful idea. And then I won't take into account all of the other things on my plate and I'll be like, how can I put that into effect in the next year, 2 years? Like, what do I have to do? Like, and then I come to Gavin and I'm like, I can't do it, and I'm so upset that I can't do it, and then
I'm a failure. It's like
for not starting something that I really wanted to start, that's
Alison Armstrong defines the difference as like the difference between a dream and a goal is commitment and accountability, right? Like it's a dream of ours to start our awesome, music with Ableton because neither of us are committed to it. And there's no accountability there, right? Like, absolutely, one day we want to do it. And it's huge because it's something that tells you who you are and tells others, like, what's important to you. But we're not actually committed to it versus, like, the podcast and the things that we are committed to are more goals.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
It's easy in the relatively to do a podcast. I hit record and we're going.
Well,
versus
I guess for you it's easy, but so like your education has led you to a point where it's easy.
Exactly, yeah. And so I need to start at zero to learn how to make music.
Right.
I'm just not able to do that at this juncture.
Right.
Well, and we're not Andrew Burgos. We can't just like play music within 10 minutes of picking up an instrument for the first time. It's like a little
He's
tiny
pretty
kid.
incredible. Yeah.
Like I feel like both of us
Is
enjoy.
that really part of his story?
Yeah, you should listen to his podcast.
I'm going to. Not tonight. Saying that right now.
Yeah.
That's okay.
You see what I just did there? Made it a goal. I literally just calendared it in my brain.
Well, and it's so funny because I feel like I'm the opposite. Like I have little to no goals. Everything is a dream. Like, it's just how I walk through life. It's just like, that's possible, that's possible, that's possible, that's possible. But I'm never actually, like, really tied to anything. Until recently, like, doing the podcast and the videos, I've been, like, ultra consistent and committed. But other than that, like, my whole life is just like, oh, that's possible, that's cool, that'd be fun. And then I don't even need to do it. I just enjoy it. Just enjoy knowing that it's possible. Like, I don't have to participate.
So when he first started bringing up his old Explorer, his pre-runner, remember when he started doing that? He was like, I really want to buy back my old car, and I think I can find where it is. And I'm like, wow, he's going to start allocating money so that he can actually buy his old car back. He's going to start changing these habits in his life so that he can make this an actual thing. And I'm watching him for like a couple months, and I'm like, Gavin, I don't think that you're going to get your pre-runner. I don't see you changing any of your habits, you know? And
He doesn't have a separate savings account specifically.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I have 5 savings accounts.
Well, and the best part is she says that, and I was like, yeah, it's just like a pipe dream. Like, I want to do it, but I also want to make sure you get to eat while you're looking for a job. So I'm going to do that. And she's like, but you said you wanted the pre-runner. Mm-hmm. But it has nothing to do with what I'm committed to right now. It's just something I want.
But like immediately my brain is like, so I want to, and I'm going to do this. I want to learn Spanish. I want to learn a foreign language. And like I do this dance all the time where I'm like, oh, I'm going to do it. But now like I'll like start for like a week and I'll pick up some remedial course or like some app that can teach me, and then I totally fall off the face of the planet because I'm doing other things, right? And then I'm like, dang it, I didn't do it again, right? So
for sure.
Yeah,
I think that's a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. It's not like that's a Alli Marti thing. That's a
it's relatable.
Humanity
relatable
thing.
To our audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Alli is just like one of you.
Can you believe it? I know, all of the stars in the clouds next to me, my throne.
Yeah. Somehow she's relatable.
Yeah.
Way up there.
Somehow. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, just so everyone knows, I guess kind of how we all started hanging out. We're with my wonderful wife. I almost said our wonderful wife.
Close enough.
Close enough, yes.
Yeah, we're with my wonderful wife, Alli Marti. And so the first time Dylan and Alli met, it was, I called Dylan and just told him he was making us tacos. We didn't live together yet. I just called Dylan and I was like, hey, we're coming to your house.
Hey, I met a girl. And I told him you were going to make us dinner.
I'll see you on Sunday. Click.
Sunday night.
Yeah, it was good times, though. It was Sunday Fun Day. Ended up working out perfect. We're here now.
Yeah, we are here now.
Yep.
Now we all live together.
2 husbands.
Yeah.
Dylan and I went on our first date this weekend.
Yeah, you went ice racing.
What are you talking about, a first date? We've been dating for as long as a first date.
Oh, this is my favorite.
A ton of things together.
That's true. Without Gavin?
Yeah. We've gone to
You went to
several
a couple
concerts.
Several concerts.
Several concerts.
I've missed out
You're
on a
right.
couple good concerts.
Yeah.
More fun.
You're right.
Than anyone else at these concerts. So
Every time. We're
Yeah.
just the bells of the ball. You're right.
Yeah.
So we're on our
First
like
date.
45th date right now.
Yeah. I'm just glad to see someone's treating you well, you know?
I am also very glad to be participating in such an experience. Yes.
Man. Well, speaking of fun experiences, you guys pulled a fast one on me not too long ago. You guys surprised me with my own wedding. And Dylan, I know, was a big part of helping make this happen. I believe he was the first person you told, right? Or was it JT?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we
he
kind
was
of
the
talked
first.
about it.
it was like
And so many guests have said that was like one of the most joyful experiences in their life was our wedding. So it'd be
even
super
Jamar.
fun. Yeah, Jamar, he was like, that's the first thing, the only thing that comes to mind. So it'd be really wonderful to like really hear the full details and give you like just blank canvas to tell us all about it.
Shoot.
Some of this I might be hearing for the first time, which is
Probably,
exciting.
you know? Well, maybe. We'll find out. But yeah, I love that story. So I guess I can go as detailed as I want.
It's balls in your
Right?
court.
Okay. So essentially, I had quit my job, and after a few weeks of being out of the corporate world, I started to feel just light. It's amazing how all of this weight off my shoulders. And so I kept thinking about something that I had, like we had been talking about getting married since essentially we started dating. And we were going to elope in June, and we told our families about it, and I decided that wasn't what I wanted to do anymore because my parents were like, no, we can like, we can help you pay for the wedding, because at the time, Gavin and I were like, we're broke, we're in love, we love Jesus, like, we're just gonna get married.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna, like, help us bring food, or, like, whatever happens.
Grilled
It
cheese,
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Totally. And then, so then, as a woman, I'm like, ooh, we could actually create a ceremony?
Yeah.
We have to do that now that I know that we have more resources. And so we started planning our wedding for a year out. We were technically, Gavin and I were planning our wedding for June 2019. But I just went up to Dylan. We were going to Kim's birthday party, and we were driving in the car, and I was like, Dylan, I have this crazy idea, and I don't think that it'll work, but it's been floating around in my head, and I have to tell somebody. I want to surprise Gavin with our wedding. And he looks over at me. He's like, we're doing that. And so the whole time we were driving up to Kim's, and that's 30 minutes or so, we were just talking about, like, why this is something that is possible and why this is only possible for Gavin Malcolm. Like, why you're a perfect specimen and why...
Isn't that the truth?
Please tell him more.
You. And so we go to King Soopers, and we're grabbing a cake for Kim, and I'm getting overwhelmed with, like, tears in my eyes just thinking about how powerful this is and how much you love surprises. I mean, for the audience, can you tell the audience how much you love surprises?
The best thing. I love not knowing things. My entire life is all about surprises. If Alli ever wants to hide something from me, all she has to say is, it's a surprise. I will stop. I'll, like, purposely try and, like, forget things just so it's a surprise. Like, nothing bums me out more than finding out early on a surprise. And I love giving surprises, which is hilarious because I'll make a surprise out of, like, I got Alli, like, a fun lip gloss that, like, changes colors with whatever the pH in your lips is. And I was like, made a big deal out of it. And she's, like, trying to figure out what it is. And then, like, half the time I give her whatever the surprise is. And she's like, you really hyped that up. Like, I just love surprises so much. They're my favorite thing.
But the key is he has to know there's a surprise coming.
Yeah,
Right.
I like to stew in it.
Yeah.
Right.
It can't just be a straight surprise. It has to be you're getting surprised at some point in the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a
Valid
surprise
point.
brewing, and then he puts blinders on.
Yeah.
And he's like, can't wait for my surprise. It's really adorable. It truly is.
I do like to just stew in a good anticipation.
So after Dylan had given me something that I really needed, I needed validation from one of Gavin's
Wait,
closest
let's go back to King
friends.
Soopers real quick.
Okay.
We did, remember,
Yes.
we bought the first wedding ring. It didn't end
Yeah.
up being used, but we did go into the 50-cent machine, put the money in,
Oh, no
turn
way.
the thing,
And
and
we-
get it.
We made a video.
We did film
So
it.
we'll have to show you the
yeah, I
video.
want to see that.
Yeah. We should add it to the proposal video. But anyways.
It didn't quite fit with the theme for the whole
Okay.
thing that I was going for, maybe. But
Yeah.
we did.
I do want to see it.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
at least get to see it.
Yeah.
For your viewing pleasure only. Sorry, guys. It won't be in the podcast.
It might.
True. So
But
there we
either
were. We were in King Soopers, and he's like, let's go check out the rings. And so we go over there, and we get you count them,
Wow.
2 wedding bands.
Spoiled.
You are
Where
spoiled.
are they now? I could use one.
We could see if it would fit you.
That'd be hilarious.
It might be small.
One fit on my pinky, and I was like, definitely not going to
Definitely
work.
not.
And then the second one, I think I got it onto my ring
Oh,
finger.
it's definitely not going to fit
so,
them. Oh,
but we can see if I still have them, because I
would be
think
fun.
that I do.
Just for the viewers,
Mm-hmm.
think about the timeline here. Within 15 to 20 minutes of having this idea, we already had a wedding ring.
Yeah, and also the timeline, that day was the 26th of July, and then we got married on September 29th.
wow.
Yeah. So,
That's awesome.
We gave people almost the exact same time frame in order to be able to make it to our wedding. So one of the issues when we were going to elope was that when I called up my whole family, I have a beautiful, wonderful, incredible family, and everybody is, like, I'm the most blessed girl in the whole entire world to have people who will drop at a dime to support me. Everybody's willing to get on the phone and talk because none of them live in Colorado. Everybody's willing to just be family. Like, I've never, like, most people have friction with their family, but we just don't, in the sense that, like, whatever you bring to the table, we just love you for it. And we're just going to, like, laugh at you and laugh together and just be a family about it. Right? Mm-hmm. And so, anyway, so Dylan and I create this idea, and then about a week or 2 weeks later, I'm dress hunting. I'm looking for a dress, and I've been running into roadblocks this whole time trying to figure out a venue. I'm like, okay, so Gavin and I have been building a guest list for June of 2019. So I know how many people are coming, but I need to, like, find a venue that can fit it, and I also have a budget that I need to hit, and so I'm still hitting all these roadblocks, but I got faith. And so I call up Ness and I tell her the story, and obviously Ness is like, yes, we're doing this. And so Ness comes with me to Fort Collins, and her and my mom and we go, I had set up a couple dress fitting appointments, and so we go to these different shops, and they all look beautiful. All these dresses are beautiful. And that's how I felt. Like, I was like, they're all beautiful. How do you choose from a dozen beautiful dresses? And so we start walking around Old Town, and I'm supposed to be making a decision in the next hour to, like, choose one of the dresses that I had just seen. And my mom is like, let's walk into this bridal shop. Like, I've always heard really great things about it. And so we walk in there, and she's like, hey guys, I have an appointment coming in 5 minutes. I really don't have time to help you. And so at that point, we're like, oh, we're just looking. No worries. Take your time. Like, we don't even need help. It's totally fine. And so we walk around this bridal shop, and we go to the clearance section, and I find this dress that I like, and I pull it out. And I'm like, oh, do you mind if I just try this on really quickly? And she's like, if you like that dress, let me get you one other. And so she picks out this other dress, and it's Encore Bridal. Everybody should go there, by the way.
Shout out to Encore.
Mm-hmm. And so I put on the dress that she picks out for me, and I walk out of the dressing room, because none of the dressing rooms in bridal shops have mirrors, guys.
Well, yeah, so that you're forced to go out and get opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who would have thought? That's that psychology, that advertising psychology.
Totally. It's like, you walk out and you're like, oh my gosh, like, it's like a moment, right? You don't, like, watch yourself get in it, which is incredible when you're putting on tent-like objects, you know what I mean? Like, truly,
no idea.
You get helped into your dress.
That's
right?
hilarious.
Like, somebody pulls up just layers and layers of this beautiful fabric, and you just, like, dive on in there, right? And so I walk out, and my jaw just drops. Like, I've never felt so beautiful. And we find legitimately the perfect dress. At the time, I can't remember who was helping us, but at Encore Bridal, the person who was supposed to come in the next 5 minutes, they canceled. And so she looks at this dress, and it was one size too small, and she's like, oh, let me call up the factory. Let's see, like, if we have it, like, on hand, the size that you need. And she calls them up, and she's like, they only have one. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And so what had to happen in order to line that up is just, like, utter chaos. And it was the best deal ever. It was an $800 dress, and I've never felt more beautiful.
Wow.
Guys. And it was just...
I don't know much about wedding dresses, but I've heard they're, like,
they can
usually
be pricey.
in the thousands or tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was, like, such perfect timing. Like,
Truly.
I love stories like that where it's just, like, an absolute house of cards. Like, if one tiny little part of that story was different, totally different outcome.
We didn't
like
have
if the
an
other person had shown
there.
up, or if your mom hadn't said something, or
Totally.
if the factory hadn't had just the right amount, like they had one left.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Totally. It was crazy. It was truly crazy. And so we got the dress, and that added a little extra steam to my ship because I was running into all these problems, and I was like, the Lord is on our side. And so after that, Ness, truly the most wonderful woman in the world, just like all hands on deck. Like, I'm calling venues, she's calling venues, we're talking on the phone all the time. During this whole time, Dylan and I are having these morning conversations, which is just hilarious. So
because Gavin would leave for work at 7 or 7:30, and then we'd have like an hour and a half before I left, where it was just like
game planning every morning. Like, I would like wake up, maybe like do some yoga or something, like to like better myself, and then I'd be like, see you, sweetie, and you'd be like, bye, you guys, and then I'd be like, Dylan, this is where we're at in the plan. He'd be like, what's happening with this? And I'd be like, I don't know. It depends on which store we go into.
Well, war room sessions every single morning.
Seriously.
There were some hard times, some good times.
Yeah.
It was all
I've never
all the things of planning a wedding.
So bipolar.
Well, and the best part is, like, this whole time, I think that I'm doing something horribly wrong. Because Alli would have, like, a hard time. Like you said, there were some, like, real serious ups and downs.
Yeah.
And Alli would just be, like, super upset and inconsolable. And she wouldn't tell me what was going on. So, like, I'd come home and it was so obvious that, like, something was really wrong. And then I'd try and offer my help. And I'd be like, what's going on? And she's like, I can't talk about it, don't want to talk about it, for like a full month. And like we talk about things, like we're really chatty.
Super chatty.
Like we try and squash everything that comes up. Like,
see,
if there's...
I thought I was like the best spy in the whole world, is what I thought. I was like, so I would be looking on the internet for 8 hours, making phone calls. It was truly a whole day. It was multiple days, like full 8-hour work days of me trying to plan this wedding. And I'd be like looking into venues and on the phone with like different venues and on the phone with like different vendors to like figure stuff out. But I would also be looking at jobs to apply for. Mm-hmm. So like when you came home, you would be like, what's up, sweetie? And I'd be like, I applied for these 3 jobs.
Yeah.
Ding!
Ding.
Yeah. And I'm really bad at lying. It's really, I mean, who wants to be good at lying?
Yeah.
But it was not very useful in this moment. So I would have to like use the things that I was actually doing. So I'd be like, oh, Ness and I got to hang out today. It was so wonderful, you know? Yeah. Okay, so did you know that one of the venues that we were going to use was the house in Silverthorne that we stayed the night at with Sarissa?
Link to the video here.
Yeah.
We borrowed a canoe there, Dylan and I.
Oh, that was a good time. You guys.
That was a good time.
That was a sick house. It still is a sick house. I'm assuming it's still
High
there.
pointed, is that what it's called?
Vaulted ceilings?
No, the canoe.
Oh, we high-centered.
High-centered,
yes.
thank you.
Yeah, we got wedged on some rocks, and then we, like, spun around, and we're, like, going backwards down the river. We're like, oh, that's right. Neither of us know what we're doing. And it was
river
real
is a
loud.
strong word.
Yeah, it's like a crick.
Well, it's supposed to be
That's a
river,
weird way to say it,
but it was so
super low,
so dry last year that it was a creek.
There was nothing there.
But it was truly, like 12 feet across. Like, it wasn't...
No, it's probably like 25 feet across.
Right? So, like, it wasn't a creek, but because there was no water in it, it definitely was.
Yeah.
And so I called up Sarissa. Actually, Sarissa was the second person to know.
Oh, really?
It wasn't Ness. It was Sarissa. Because Sarissa and I were working on...
What did Sarissa say?
She said, are you serious? And then she said, okay, I will help you.
Love Sarissa.
She wasn't sure if I was serious. I love her so much. She's so analytical.
Yeah, I'm sure she was already like, just ones and zeros, all the things that need to happen.
She's like, you're being serious, right? And I was like, yep. And she's like, okay, I'll help you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so she started talking to the owners of the house, and they were like, hell no, you can't bring 100 people here.
Which is fair.
Yeah, the house...
Wait, I thought they said yes at first.
They did, but it was like a day later that they said no.
Okay.
Like, they were nervous. They were so nervous about it. They were like, okay, so she talked to the mom
Yeah.
And she was like, hey, this is what my friends are trying, or this is what my friend is trying to do for her boyfriend. And she was like, well, I'm not so sure. Let me talk to my husband about it. And he was like, no, that sounds great. Like, why not? Right?
Yeah.
Like, cheers to them. That sounds fun. And then
The logistics.
they had, well, I'm not sure if this is actually true or not. I think that they were just nervous because bringing 100 people into the house
The
is a
logistics
mess.
of putting 100 people on any property is always like, oh boy,
Yeah.
here we go. Especially one that's
mean,
like not really set up for that many people.
It's not set up for that many people. But what they told Sarissa was they had... so they Airbnb their place.
Yeah.
And so they had a couple come in who had like a really huge screaming match. And so the cops were called apparently.
Oh, wow.
And so they apparently took their house off of the Airbnb market. So Sarissa asks them, day one, Sarissa asks them. Day two, they're thinking about it. And then by day three, the house is off of Airbnb. So, like, I'm not sure exactly what happened. They could have made up that story, honestly, just because it's... I mean,
It'd be
it's
hard
a
to say no to
weird-
someone who's, like, trying to do something so genuine.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a weird... Like, we put them in a weird spot. But I was like, it's such a beautiful property. Like this... Like, I know that Gavin loves Lake Dillon.
Yeah.
I know that he loves it so much. Like, if we could make this happen, this is the property.
Because it's only like 5 minutes from the bike park, which was the entire reason he liked Lake Dillon is because the bike park is there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Frisco.
Yes. Which we have to go to this summer because I've never been there.
Twist our arm. Dylan and I'll have to go.
You guys, enough, you guys. Stop arguing about it. Okay? We're going.
Fine.
So after that is when Ness got involved, and being the person that she is, when she gets behind an idea, she's the most stubborn person I've ever met.
Yeah.
Like, we had decided that we were going to do a white tent wedding, and then she went on a 2 to 3 week long vacation where she went to like multiple different places. So she started off in the United States for like 4 of those days, and then she went to, I think it was the Bahamas or
Yeah, someplace.
for like 2 extra weeks. And so she comes back after that 3rd week and she's like, hey, where are we at? And I'm like, everything has changed. And she's like, we had a plan. Like, she was so stubborn about it. It was amazing. And so we went to probably, like, we legitimately checked out probably 15 to 18 different sites for
Wow.
it. And the sites kept changing because I went over to Kim and JT's house and we made the invite video. We didn't have enough time to obviously like send out invitations to people because it happened in such a short period of time.
Because you invited people, like, what, 6-7 weeks out?
Probably 6.
6 weeks from the actual wedding date? Which is
Yeah.
nuts.
Right.
So
There's no
awesome.
save the date for that,
Yeah.
you know? And so I went over to Kim and JT's and we all made signs because apparently I love props. This is something that
Yeah.
I'm learning about myself. And so I brought over all of these arts and crafts and we just built all these different signs. And at that point, we had kind of nailed down a venue. This was when we were still thinking about doing a white tent wedding. And I had forced Kim to make this sign about Nederland, Colorado. And so she made the most beautiful sign I've ever seen. I was like, Kim, write Nederland, Colorado. And what she did was create artwork.
In classic Kim fashion. It's like, this must be beautiful.
And it was beautiful. Me and JT are making signs. Literally, we're 2 seconds.
Production line.
Yeah. And Kim has been working on this the whole time. And so we make these beautiful signs. But at this point, when I send out this video, I feel like hella committed to net. Right?
Yeah.
But the venue keeps changing because people keep RSVPing past the RSVP date. Like,
To be expected.
well, I gave them 6 weeks. That's not enough time.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know if I can make it to Colorado.
Yeah, from out of state, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it started off that we were going to have 40 people attend. And then it went up to 60, which meant that the venue that I wanted, that my heart was set on, I was like, this is the perfect venue. We couldn't have it. They didn't allow any more than 50 people there.
Oh.
And so we just kept having to change all of these little details. And what happened at the end of it was... So I think that why this created so much joy in our circuit was because we all knew who you were, and we knew that, like, creating something like this was going to be so powerful for our relationship. And it created so much joy in the midst of so much chaos to know all of these people supported me. Like, the first time that we told my whole family that we were going to be getting married in 6 weeks and you can come, but you don't have to. Like, our love doesn't, like, for you doesn't change if you can't make it to a wedding in 6 weeks, right? Like those moments when people were like, Alli, I think that you're being crazy, but I will help you, right? Like there were moments where my aunts were on the phone with vendors with me. To, like, and they don't even live in Colorado.
Yeah, they're like time zones away.
Yeah, totally. And they're like, okay, like these are the things that we're looking for. And we're like talking, like, people were behind me who the first time around they were like, y'all are crazy, you're not eloping.
Yeah, I feel like that's true about everything. Like, if you kind of do something, it's hard to get anyone on board versus, like, you went full-blown crazy idea, and then everyone can get behind it because there's, like, it's insane, and there's, like, something to get behind versus, like, something that's just kind of, like, like, we're just going to, like, do a thing, and, like, if you can make it, versus just being, like, no, this is nuts. We're doing something that's, like, basically never been done, and, like, we're trying something really grand, or being, like, here's the deal, it's going to be in a year, right? Like, either be hot or cold, but I feel like in general, like, no matter what, people have a hard time getting behind lukewarm.
Right.
Like, you can't be just, like, room temperature and expect people to get behind you. Like, you have to be hot or cold.
And I was so hot about it because I had all of this extra space, right? When I quit my job, I didn't have anything lined up, which was crazy. Like, my heart was like, don't quit until you have something lined up. But when immediately people saw this change in me.
No job Alli's the best, for sure.
Well, no miserable job, Alli.
That's true,
She was miserable. That was the thing. Like,
right.
I think Dylan and I have been running, like, a 6-month smear campaign against her job to get her to stop before she finally did.
Totally. And so I became so fired up because I had the actual genuine space to handle such a commitment.
Yeah.
When we were trying to do I don't know how to describe it. We describe it as an elopement, but it would have still been a wedding, you know?
Yeah, it was basically just a, like, next week wedding. Like, if you can make it, cool. If you can't, that's cool. We just want to be married.
Right. Yeah. So I ended up, like, having all of this space to be, like, really hot about it, right?
Yeah.
And so when I would call people up the second time, they were like, you're crazy. And I'm like, it's not crazy. Have you met Gavin? And then they'd be like, you're right. I have met Gavin, right?
Yeah.
And so we're planning a wedding. Or no. Oh, yeah, we're planning a wedding. That's, like, the funniest part of it.
Oh, yeah, she's, like, asking me questions like, what colors would you want? And, like, all these things. And, again, like, I'm just excited to marry her. Like, it doesn't, like, I'd like it to be sooner than later, but, like, if she needs the time. Because I'm thinking, like, if she needs the time, like, I'll give her the time. And so I'm, like, going through what I think. I'm like, wow, cool. Like, we're getting committed to this. Like, I'm excited that, like, we're kind of making some progress. And, like, because it's kind of, like, a sore subject for a while after the first time.
Right.
There was, like, a lot of pain around that subject that we kind of had to work through.
Yeah.
And so there was, like, a couple months where, like, we just, like, couldn't talk about it because it just hurt. One of us would start being like, oh, it hurts too much. Like, I can't deal with it. So I was just excited that like any progress was being made because all I knew was like, oh, like, because I'm like badgering her like, hey, you said you wanted a year. Well, like it's been 3 months since we said like we weren't going to do the other one. So like let's pick a date so that we can do it normal. And like finally she starts saying like, oh, this is like a good date. And then like, oh, well, we can do these colors. And I'm like, heck yes, we're finally making some progress. Right?
Yeah.
Like baby steps is what I'm thinking in my mind. I have no idea that she's like weeks away from marrying me. Like in my mind, I'm like, we're just making like small itty bitty progress. That's all that matters to me. And
so Gavin's calling up venues also.
Yeah.
So he calls up the city of Lake Dillon.
I called up up Frisco and I was like, here's the deal. We want to get married on an island in your lake. What would it take for that to happen? Like, this is the venue space because I wanted to rent out the dirt jumps. Because they have, like, a really cool venue there. Like, they have, like, this giant, beautiful park, and it's right on the lake, and it's next to this perfect little island that's, like, 80 feet offshore that we'd be able to, like... I loved the idea of everyone having to, like, get there, right? Like, so there's, like, people
like
paddleboarding or, like, canoeing to the wedding and, like, making it kind of a hassle. It sounded fun. And then, like, you'd come back and they have, like, this perfect venue with this giant, like, cabin, essentially. And
for the reception.
Yeah, for the reception. And they had, like... It was actually a really good idea. Anyone who's looking to get married, it was like $900 for the whole day to rent this space, and it included like all the tables and the chairs, and like it was unbelievably reasonable. It was
unbelievable. When he found it, I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, because I was like, we should book it right now. And she's like trying to like stall me, like, I don't know, maybe.
Well, thank Lord
God.
that whoever we were talking to was like, I have to be honest, we've had a really bad season for water. There's no
snow.
water in the lake. Like, if you want to get married here, there's not going to be an island to get married on. Like,
the lake's dry, yeah. Which is hilarious because we've had such a crazy winter, it probably would have been fine.
Actually, maybe that's where we do reception number 2.
Oh, that'd be super fun.
Yeah. So he's awesome. Whoever we were talking to is awesome. He's like, hey, we'll stay in touch and we'll see if like we can make this happen for you.
Get the right amount of snowfall so that you guys don't just like pay us for this experience.
Such
and then
a cool person.
Yeah, seriously, like love Frisco.
Yeah. And so Gavin helped me do a lot of the planning when it came to... I tried to do your colors, but it didn't work.
I chose pretty outrageous colors, in all fairness.
Yeah, I was like,
let's do neon blue, neon purple, yellow, and white.
Yeah.
Like, it's a pretty aggressive wedding color scheme. Like, not picturing, like... bridesmaids would have to wear those colors.
Right.
And, like, none of them are, like, a pretty color for a dress. They're all just, like, real intense.
I mean,
I bet the right designer could figure it out.
We started off with some really good dresses.
But they were super
colors.
expensive, right?
They started off at $180, and then each girl would have had to get it tailored to specific...
Yeah, so it's, like... $200-$300 minimum for each person.
For a dress that they're going to wear one time, which...
Seems like a lot.
It's so rough. Okay, so men get to pay for a suit. Even if you're the groomsman, you get to pay for a suit that you can wear for the rest of your life.
Yeah, we're probably going to stay roughly that shape for a long time.
Yeah. And then women, we get to wear that dress one time. Even bridesmaids' dresses are usually too formal. Yeah,
like it's hard to find a space to wear it again versus like you can wear a suit anywhere.
I don't know, you could wear it to the prom probably or...
Yeah.
Yeah, so get married at 16.
See,
use
now
that
we're
dress at
making some progress.
17.
Yeah.
I get invited by some high school kid
You're right.
afterwards.
Dude, it'd be super fun. They do like adult proms. Where like, there's one called like the Nerd Prom downtown, where it's a concert. It's super fun, and everyone dresses like they're going to prom. And so, like, all the girls get to wear, like, these crazy formal dresses, which you would never have.
I will wear my wedding dress.
A reason for. I still love the idea of, like, paying to tailor your wedding dress so that it's, like, a dress you can wear out. Because that's way more fun.
Mm-hmm. Even though my dress...
It'd be tough, because it's such a... It's a beautiful dress.
White.
Well, the white isn't the problem.
It's just like the
back. The back goes all the way down to my butt. So like
It's pretty formal. But you
It's
could
really
add
formal.
like some sort of lace or something to the back to make
That's
it like
true.
a normal
That's a
normal
great
dress.
idea.
But yeah. I love the idea because I feel so bad that all these wedding dresses get used one time. Like I love the idea of
I think we should
something.
have a wedding dress party where all women get to come over in their wedding dresses.
Oh, that'd be fun.
And then all the guys can dress up in
Yeah,
Suits.
the same suit that we've worn since we were like 18.
Yeah,
Yeah, we all
exactly.
bought a suit for JT's wedding, and then I promise I'm going to wear that.
Still
till-
convincing my brother that that's what we're wearing for his wedding.
Yes!
Yes.
Oh,
I was showing
That'll be
pictures.
tough with
and
Catherine.
yeah.
I was showing pictures and
I feel like it's a
Getting
good
it
looking.
past Catherine
It depends
is...
on their
yeah,
colors.
You have
probably
to
not gonna happen.
be very persuasive.
it's probably not gonna.
Yeah.
Did
Dude,
I tell you about the time? Have I ever told you about the time that I destroyed a $5,000 wedding dress?
What?
No.
All right, we're going to insert this story right
I don't wanna
after
interrupt.
she finishes hers because I
Okay.
have to hear that. So
I feel like we should hear that story now.
Well, we're going to get to it, but for the sake of continuity, like we can make this one clip.
Okay.
Yeah. Versus
Okay.
having to edit it.
One clip.
Yeah.
Cool.
One take.
All right, so where
One chance,
were
one
we, you
opportunity.
guys?
So, Frisco didn't work out. Mm-hmm. And then you finally have committed to Ned. And you're like 2 weeks out from the wedding is where we're at.
Oh my gosh, so funny. I've changed the colors of the wedding 3 times. Oh my god, our mothers were gonna murder me. Truly, they were gonna
Yeah.
murder me with all of the changes that were happening. Like they would go out and buy stuff for decorating the tables or just
Whatever.
decorating everything. They would go out and they would buy these in these colors. And I would be like, colors changed, and they would be like, Like, they
Oh.
would fight me about it, you know? They'd be like, no, they're not changing. And I'd be like,
They
they're changing.
have already changed. We bought the dresses.
Totally. We bought $60 dresses for these girls.
And they looked awesome.
They did.
They were really awesome
The
dresses.
first time that they put them on, though, they did not look awesome.
Because they're all like misfitting and stuff.
Yeah, totally, which was crazy. So we bought them, and like you have to wear them a certain way. Like you have to have like a strapless bra. Like all of these details went into like making it beautiful, but they ended up being beautiful. Kim was the only one who actually had to tailor it, just because Kim was too short for the dress
Yeah.
by like
She's-
7 inches.
Yeah. She's a lot of awesome in a small package.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And so yada yada yada.
We'll post a picture of Kim looking
Logistics.
great in that dress, showing off her sweet back muscles.
Her smoking hot back muscles.
Well,
Dude,
yeah.
I mean,
She
she's
wore that dress well.
planking. You can tell.
Yeah.
So to fast forward a little bit, we finally found. I mean, I just think that it's just such a beautiful idea, and it just brings me so much joy that truly 100 people kept the secret from you.
Oh, that's such a good part of the story is that I was talking to almost every single person at that wedding for the whole time they were keeping the secret. Like, I love that for sure.
Also, really funny part of the story is that people would call me at the craziest times of day, right? So I called up everybody who was like, non-negotiable, has to be there. And I was like, hey, just real quickly, wanted to let you know, I'm surprising Gavin with our wedding in 6 weeks, and I'd like you to be there. And so at the beginning, I was saying this to people, and they would... Or I would, like, leave messages for people, right? I'd be like, hey, call me back. Just have something super important to talk to you about. Okay, bye. And then I wouldn't say anything about it being a surprise for Gavin, and they would call me back. And Gavin, being the person that he is, would answer my phone for me. And he'd be like, oh my God, your cousin's on the phone.
How fun! Yeah.
Hi. and then my cousin, thank the Lord this only happened one time, but... So on the message, I was like, hey, I have something really important I need to talk to you about. Give me a call back. And Gavin answers the phone. And I'm sweating bullets over here. This was at my mom's 60th birthday party, actually. My cousin Cameron calls, and he's like, hey, like, oh my gosh, what's up with you? Like, I'm so glad that you called. And I'm just doing everything in my power to make him not say, what's this important thing? Because I'm on the phone with him and Gavin, right? And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, Cam, I have to get off the phone. We're about to do cannonballs. I love you. Bye.
Yeah, which is hilarious because I'm like, oh, I love Cam. I'm so excited he called. I'll drop everything and talk to you for an hour.
Exactly. And I was like,
played that
Mayday.
smart. You played that smart.
Well, and there were also many times where you would have to, like, because obviously he couldn't overhear, you would have to, like, leave the house.
Right.
And in a normal circumstance, she would never do this. So it was like, I have to distract Gavin. Like, she has to go talk on the phone. She would, like, have to, like, drive somewhere to go talk to these people for an hour. Or
That's hilarious.
And it would be, like, my job to, like, entertain Gavin. And
It's
that's
easy.
fairly easy.
It is.
But it was still,
You
like,
ask him one question and that hour is taken up.
That's
definitely times
fantastic. That's a new part of the story that I love so much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a
That's
team
awesome.
effort for sure.
Because there were plenty of times where she was just, like, gone, and you were like, where is Alli?
I do remember a lot of just, like, it's so weird, like, she doesn't have anything to do. What is she just doing right now? I'd like to see my girlfriend at the time. And Dylan would just be like, I don't know, let's draw. Like, it just whatever came to mind. Like,
He'd be like, Gavin, what do you think about? And you would just go.
Yeah, Dylan's
And
not
I would,
even
like,
in the
walk
room
in the
anymore.
door and I'd be like, he'd be like, what's up? I'm going to bed now.
Yeah, so many times I'm
Yeah.
sure Dylan jumped on the grenade, stayed up till like 11 o'clock while I just talked to him.
Truly.
All right, so now we're like a week out.
A week out, there were still multiple things to tack down.
When did you lock down the actual venue? Because there was a time, maybe, what was it, 3 weeks out?
It was less. When I called you,
Well, no, there was a time specifically where you wanted to give up. I remember very clearly that that she was done. She was over it and was giving up. And then it's like, no, people have bought plane tickets and hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally not a possibility at this point. And so we had to work through it. And then, like, very soon after,
That
you did
was-
lock down the venue.
within week 2, it was like,
Wow.
it was like day 13 or something like that.
13 days out.
I call up Dylan, and he's like he's hanging out with his family. He's in
this
the
was
middle
in person, I thought. That we, I don't recall. I thought it was in person, like when he was gone sometime, either morning or
But
night.
long and the short, like, you're ready
Yeah.
to give up 13 days out. Like, everything's collapsed.
It has. It really felt that way.
So
we
what
still
did
didn't
you do
have,
to get through it?
I had Ness and Dylan, and I knew that things were going to work out. And I kept thinking about how I didn't want a normal wedding. Like, I didn't want us to wait until June 2019 to have all of these people who, like, love and care for us, but it not be our wedding.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I just knew you. Like, I was like,
It's the perfect
not-
wedding for me.
It's not gonna be effective for Gavin. Like waiting until the middle of the next year is gonna be a normal wedding, and Gavin is not a normal guy. Like, he has fire and spunk and tenacity, and he likes to be silly and goofy and spontaneous. Like, he deserves something special. And so I guess that's what did it. But I remember being at the gym trying to work off some of this anxiety, and I was cycling and I was bawling. I don't know. It was the worst, truly. I was sitting there cycling, bawling, and I was like, I can't be here without, like, I can't be focused on working out. Like, that's how worked up I am about this wedding. And so I call up Dylan, and this is such a vivid memory for me. I'm not sure if we're thinking about it at the same time, because there were multiple times, like, we had 4 venues planned, like 4 separate venues.
Yeah.
Like, there were multiple moments where I was like, I don't think that this is going to work, right? But I do remember being on the phone with Dylan, and I was like, I have the option between 2 different venues, and I need to make it within the next hour. And one of them is super, like, way more expensive, but something that I really want. And then the other one is less expensive, but could really be, like, turned into something beautiful. And he's like, you'll figure it out. You have this. Like, just, like, make the decision, and we're just gonna do it. Like, whichever way you go, we're just gonna do it.
Oh, what a good man for not even trying to tell you what to do. 'Cause
Yeah.
I absolutely would have been like, sweet, balls in my court. I'm making decisions. Thanks, Dylan, for
my job,
being wonderful.
my job was not to make decisions. My job was to keep her, like, on track to make these decisions and keep her motivated and, like, just supportive. I feel like, I hope I...
Yeah, you did your job.
Yes.
I also called Sarissa. We got off the phone. I was like, stupid Dylan didn't tell me what to do. Sometimes you just need somebody to tell you what to do. But this was not that moment. I will tell you that right now. So I call up Sarissa, and she says the same thing. She's like, whichever way you go, it's going to work out. And so I chose the less expensive one that we just made beautiful.
Yeah, you guys made that venue look amazing.
Oh my gosh. And that was crazy. It was...
A lot of work went into that. I know that because literally every person at the wedding was like, you lucky SOB. This took so much work. And I was like,
Because we were partying.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, that was. I do remember. Even just taking it down the next day was like a lot of work. So I can imagine how much it was to.
Right.
There was
a
4
lot of
times
us.
the amount of people.
Yeah, there was a lot of us.
Yeah, there was
and
only...
it still took a while.
Yeah, it
There's
took
only
basically a whole day to break that whole venue down, and there's probably 16 of us.
Yeah.
At least.
If
16,
not
20.
even... Yeah, if
Especially
not even
like
more.
that filtered in and out throughout the day. Probably
Yeah.
more. All right, so it's week out now. You
Yeah.
finally have the venue locked down. You made your big decision. That final week, what was that?
That came down to all these details that I just didn't have figured out, right? So, like, I had transportation for us to get to Mud Lake, which is where I originally really wanted the ceremony to be. And that's where we took all of the photos. I mean, I think that Mud Lake is truly one of the most Colorado picturesque places I've ever been in my whole life. Like, it has aspens and evergreens and little ponds and...
The mountains, it's beautiful.
Right. It's just so Colorado. And so I had all of these, like, bigger pieces figured out, but I still didn't know how I was going to propose to you. Like, this was a huge debate for me.
Which is close because I don't even know if you needed to. I'm so glad you did. Because that's, like, one of the funnest parts. But, like, you genuinely, like, I could have just shown up, like, in a tux.
That was my vote, is to just straight up, like, surprise party it, where we, like, bring you to supposedly Jamar's wedding, and then it turns out to be your wedding.
Oh, that's a part that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
So in order to get Gavin... So Gavin ended up doing many things in the wedding. He created the arch that we stood under, and we did all of these things. We had to change the script for him a couple times. So it started off that it was going to be birthday weekend for Gavin is how it started off. So Dylan was going to take him on this adventure a couple weeks before his birthday, and then we had to change it because we were like, how are we going to get him dressed up for a wedding? Like, how are we going to get him... Like, I at least want him in the mindset that he's going to get married. Like,
Or that, like, he has to at least look presentable.
Yeah.
Because, let's be honest, if left to my own devices, I'll look homeless. For sure.
And so we switched it. I called up a really good friend of ours, Jamar, and him and Nicole are such a beautiful, wonderful couple, and they're in a similar spot where we are, where
they'd marry each other tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. But Nicole's in Thailand right now, and so they can't marry each other tomorrow. They have to, like, if anything's going to happen with that, Jamar has to plan something. And so I call up Jamar, and I'm like, Jamar, I think so I know that I'm going to surprise Gavin with our wedding, but the only way that I can get him there suited up and in the right mind for a wedding is if you pretend that it's your wedding. And so this whole time, like throughout this whole 2 months worth of effort, I'm feeding Jamar lines, and Jamar is feeding these lines to Gavin. He's like, yeah, we're getting married at Ruby's Ranch. Like, he's just making...
Well, which is hilarious, because I Googled whatever the place he made up, and, like, it was different than the city he said, so then I'm like... And at no point did I think he was BSing, or, like, I just assumed, like, oh, it's some ranch I haven't heard of. So I'm, like, asking him a lot of questions, and he's not telling me anything... Because I was supposedly, like, his best man.
Yeah.
And, again, it only works because I didn't need... I don't require information to function.
Right.
Like, really, truly, I don't. So I'd be like, hey, what colors are we doing? He's like, I don't know. And it's, like, 3 days before the wedding. I'm like, okay. Like, I didn't care. I was like, sick. I'll just go get whatever colors I like.
Yeah.
Like, it's so hilarious.
So Gavin and Jamar made the arch that we stood under. And that's how I actually found out that I really enjoy woodworking, or wood burning more specifically. It was because of our wedding. Gavin is the most thoughtful gift giver. This
From the top.
This is where alligators' watermelons comes in handy. Gavin is the most thoughtful gift giver that I know. He will put his heart and soul into giving somebody a thoughtful, meaningful gift. And so he's like, Alli, you should wood burn a plaque for Jamar and Nicole. And you should say, Jamar and Nicole 2019, or J and N, like match made in heaven, or just like make this beautiful plaque for specifically these two. And I was like, that is such a great idea. And I look over at Dylan and I'm like,
yeah, like I went and bought like this beautiful cedar, which is like its own little story, because I made some little kid, like random kid that was just, I could tell he was bored at the hardware store. Like he was just bored at the lumber store, and his mom's just kind of dragging him around, and he's maybe like 8, and I was like, hey man, I've got something super important that I need your help with. Will you help me choose the wood for my friend's wood burning gift? We're giving them a gift for their wedding, and we need the perfect, most beautiful piece of wood. And so he like drags me around the shop until we find the perfect piece of wood. So I like go through all this effort to get her this piece of wood, and again, I never asked questions why she was weirded out that I kept saying, like, no, their name should be on it. And she's like, I don't think so. And I'm like, why wouldn't they want their name on it? Like, I never asked a second question. Like,
and part of me was, like, so in on having it say Jamar and Nicole behind us.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
Yeah, we just talk about that.
And that's Joy Quota, right? Like, that's, like, how silly is that? How silly is that like, it says Jamar and Nicole behind Gavin and Alli's wedding? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like the icing on top of the cake. And so Gavin is like, oh, okay, like I have this beautiful piece of wood for you to wood burn on. And I found a Bible verse that I really love. It's 1 Peter 4:10. And essentially it says, use your gifts in the world. Like, just spread love and use your gifts.
Yeah, share your gifts with others.
Yes.
Whatever you were made to do, just go do it for others.
For other people. And so that is the quote that I ended up using for the plaque. And we walk underneath it multiple times every single day now.
Yeah, it's hanging in our house. It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. I'm going to look it up.
So, shout out to all of the individuals. Truly, like really and truly, every single person in the wedding party had my back every single step of the way. I would call up all of the guys and be like, you know, Gavin, as well as I do, we need to do such and such. How should we do it for him? Or to come up with the bachelor party idea, we had to concoct the craziest story. It was like half Jamar's bachelor party and half Gavin's birthday. And we smushed them together, and Gavin was like, totally logical. We're definitely going to do those same two things at the same time with like, the same people.
Yeah, like...
And people that Jamar didn't know, such as Brian, who we went bike riding with, and my brother that was there.
Well, and it was so funny because Jamar and I talked about this when he was on the podcast just the other day. When Nicole found out she wasn't going to be at the wedding, she's like, Gavin's going to be real bummed I'm not there. Like, she totally. Somehow was immediately like, oh, it's kind of about me not being there. Like, my first thought when Jamar was like, yeah, none of my friends could make it. And I was like, yeah, cool. Like, it didn't seem weird to me that no one Jamar knew was at his bachelor party. Because I knew them all. And I was like, yeah, my friends are incredible, so you're welcome. Right? Like, as sad as it is, like, that's really how I felt.
Yeah. It's not off base. You do have incredible friends. It's basically the only reason I wanted to marry him.
I get it. Yeah. So I did look up the verses. 1 Peter 4:10, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. Like, the whole point is just like, it's Joy Quota. Like, I'm the joyful person, so the point is to give it to people. And everyone has that gift they should give to people. I love every part of this.
Okay, so this is also a fun part for me, is 4 days in advance, 5 days in advance, I can't remember exactly the timeline at this point, but I tell Gavin that I have a surprise for his birthday, which is coming up in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And so he has no idea that the next weekend he's getting married. I was like, I have a huge surprise for your birthday. I'm super excited about it. That's all the information I'm going to give you. So anytime he would, like, come home and I'd still be, like, doing logistics on my computer, and I'd be like, I'm working on your birthday, and he'd be like, cool.
Yeah, like, leave the room. I'd be the one that left for an hour. Like, how much time do you need? I don't want to spoil my surprise.
So funny that you're like that. Like, truly. So funny. I would be like, tell me.
Oh, anticipation's, like, good anticipation is such a great emotion.
Your dad came over the day, it was Friday. Your dad came over Friday because he was in town for a different wedding, which is just so incredible how timing lines up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I call him up and I'm like, hey, I'm surprising your son with our wedding. And he's like, you crazy. And I'm like, am I? And he's like, maybe not.
I could see this, yeah.
And then he's like, I'm like, this is the date we're going to do it. And he's like, honey, do we have that date free? And Debbie's like, we have a wedding that weekend. And I'm like,
yeah. Well, it was the next day, right?
No, it was the day before. So she's like, let me check the calendar. And so that Friday, they were coming down to Lafayette, I think, for a wedding. And then that Saturday, we were getting married. So they were already in town, which is just so crazy because they live in Durango. Yeah,
like, it's weird if my dad comes to town. Like, it's genuinely, like, there's a major reason to get either of those two out of Shangri-La down there.
Well, I mean, I think that was just perfect timing, right? Like
I
they
genuinely
would have come. They would have.
Which is hilarious,
you have no idea
like,
how, like, they were calling me up before I knew the date.
Yeah.
Because I called them up. They were the fourth people that I called. I called my mom, my dad, and then your parents. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and they were like, well, you need to tell us the date as soon as possible, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe this date, maybe this date, maybe this date. But it's going to be in between those 3 dates.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, they had, like, a super busy schedule, and they were, like, texting me for, like, I don't know, right after I told them, they texted me almost every day for a week being like, hey, just so you know, these things are popping up that we would really like to be to. Like, yours is more important, but if we can also do the things that we need to do.
That's where I get my need to make, like, a house of cards of, like, how many things can I stack into a day where I just, like, perfectly arrive in time to do this and exit just in time to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was just perfect timing. Like, all of these things were just adding up to be perfect timing. And it was really nice to get to know your friends. Like, it was such a bonding experience to have you out of the picture.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I got to hang out with about 14 people so closely. Like, Anya and I would meet at coffee shops. Cerissa and I were on the phone constantly. Ness was making trips with me. We were going to all these different places. I made friends with Catherine and Steven, who are...
Yeah, huge shout out to those two. They helped.
Phenomenal.
A ton.
Oh, yeah, you have no idea. Yeah, they so those were our like day of planners who helped us with the bar and with cleanup and with setup and with
they did
They
so
were
much.
truly my right and left hands. They were just extensions of this whole thing and just such phenomenal people. And I just got to hang out with all these people who love and cherish you so much. And it was just so funny also to like work with these guys. Like, women are so different. Like, me and those girls, like all of the bridesmaids, we're on a group text together and we're like, this is the dress. Like everything is like ticked off in a nice easy box. And then with the men, it was like, when's the wedding?
Yeah. Especially this group of guys who's like, half of them ride on our stunt team and like everything about that is like, I'll find out about a show like 3 days beforehand on like a Wednesday. The show is on like a Friday, and can you get work off? Like, just crazy. So we're all used to like last minute stuff, and I'm sure none of them took it like half as seriously. Like, I'm sure they took it serious, but like
Sam
probably
called
didn't feel
me
that
day
way.
of the wedding. Do you remember this?
No.
Do you guys know this story? Sam calls me day of the wedding.
The Rocket Doctor.
The Rocket Doctor, who has already done a podcast. Listen to his podcast. He's amazing. So he calls me day of, and he's like, hey, Alli, I just realized I don't have the groomsman outfit.
Yes! Oh my God.
He's like, where do I go? What do I do? And I'm like...
After because he stayed the
No,
Friday
it
night.
hadn't been the day before.
No, it was the day of.
He stayed the
He went
Friday
and
night.
he picked up Sean.
Well, that's why, because I do remember him saying, like, that night, he was like, yeah, I have to wake up early and go back down to Denver. And I'm like, why the heck are you going back down to Denver? You're, like, so far away. What could possibly be that important? Jamar's wedding is later, and I know that you're coming. Which, again, why would he be at
Jamar's
wedding? But
I don't know, Gavin. Why would he?
Again, I'm all about myself. I'm like, yeah, my friends are incredible.
No, because Jamar and Sam met at one of our awesome parties, and it
They
wasn't
love
like
each other.
and
Yeah.
Why
wouldn't they be friends?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. He called you day of.
Day of. He's like, where do I go? And I'm like, okay, so here's the deal. They all got him from Jose Bank, but I know that other of the groomsmen got them at Macy's. I know one guy who got his at Goodwill that matched perfectly.
Yeah, unbelievably.
So, I don't know. Use your best judgment. And so he shows up in the exact color pants that he needs.
So I know a bit of that story, because by then I had found out it was for my wedding, and Sam shows up to the guy's house.
Story.
And he literally shows up with like 8 different shirts in like 3 sets of pants. He's like, I'm going to have to return this because I spent everything I own on like these like 12 sets of clothes so that I have the right color, because I didn't even bring any of your guys' clothes with me, so I couldn't match it. I just knew like navy and sort of white.
Yeah,
and so he
not
just, like,
actual white.
yeah.
That was a very important part.
The funniest thing, because I saw all this happen, but I did not realize that he went out that day.
Yeah, he told me, he was like, yeah, I went really all over the place trying to find.
Yeah.
Because he like went to one Joseph A. Bank and they didn't have it, but they did it at another store. Oh, he did a lot. Sam had a very rough day for the wedding day. Like, he probably logged like 400 or 500 miles that day.
Yeah.
Between driving down to Denver, back to Denver, back to Denver. It was crazy.
Right.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Because he had to leave during the reception.
Yeah.
All right, so now it's the day of. I still don't know about it. This is the fun part. This is the proposals.
Okay, so the night before, me and Jess McHugh and David Townsend, and then my brother and Andrew, my cousin, we go to... Where did we get married? Sanitas Park.
Chiquita's
Italian.
Park or something.
Chiquita.
No, that's Spanish. I can't remember. It's an adorable little park with like a
How do
kids
we not
fishing
know
band.
this one detail? That's so
I know
funny.
it starts with a C, and I can
It's-
picture everything about it except for the sign.
I think it's Chiquita, something like
Something
that.
like
That's the bananas, so it's probably...
Yeah, it's probably not that.
Oh gosh.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, look it up. So we're doing the dress rehearsal, or like I guess that's what you call it, the dress rehearsal.
David was the officiant.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, he was the officiant. And so, and none of the guys could be there because they were all at the bachelor party.
Right, Jamar's bachelor party.
Jamara's bachelor party, not Gavin's. Gavin's birthday party, but Jamara's bachelor party. And so it's me, Jess, my dad, my brother, my cousin Andrew, and Catherine and Steven. And we are frozen to the bone. It's like 4:00 in the afternoon, and we are like, it's one of those days in Colorado where like whatever hand position you go outside in, it just like freezes in that position. It's like still like sunny out, but it's just frigid cold, right? This is the day before the wedding. I'm like, oh boy. And so we go through this dress rehearsal, and we go home, and my whole family is there, and it's this beautiful, wonderful time. We set up the entire hall, where we went to, the whole reception happened at Netherland Community Center. And other than like the really hard like ceiling decorations where we like draped tulle everywhere, that happened on Thursday. But on Friday after the dress rehearsal, we all went to Chipeta Park.
I was just going to tell you.
I knew you were about to. Thank you for
That
that.
was telekinesis. That was awesome. I was like, I'm going to wait.
Called Chipeta, everybody.
Yeah.
And so we're setting up the whole place. We go to bed at 11 p.m. and I cannot sleep for the life of me because I haven't written vows. I haven't written the proposal yet. On the drive up to Ned, my Aunt Lynn starts telling me about how she proposed to her husband because he proposed to her like 3 times, and she was like, no. And so he was like, I'm never proposing to you again. Like, I will be your boyfriend for forever before I propose to you again. And so she proposed to him. And so she was the reason that I used all of the props.
Oh.
Because she had the most beautiful story about, like, some of the things I actually used verbatim what she said. So she says, I love you from your head to your toes, and he wears hats all the time, so she like gave him a baseball cap. And so at that moment I gave you socks and a baseball cap.
Yep.
Right? And so I couldn't sleep that entire night, and I woke up the next morning, and like it was just like this beautiful whirlwind for sure. It was my mom, my Aunt Sherry, my cousin Krista, your mom, your sister Ashley, and then Ness, Anya, Jess, Kim, and I guess I'm...
Sarissa?
Oh, thank you. Sarissa. Thank you. And so we're all sitting there, and we're, like, having this wonderful time, and, like, I'm feeling out of my body strange. I don't know if I'm ever going to experience that kind of feeling ever again. Because I knew you were going to say yes, but I also was like, is this happening today? Like, I've been working so hard for something for it to be happening today.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like, even though it was guaranteed, like, I was obviously going to say yes, but, like...
We even took marriage counseling within those 7 weeks of us.
Well, that was one of the stipends for us to get married in the following year. You're like, I'm really serious. Like, I was like, yeah, whatever you want. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I knew you were going to say yes, but it was also like, I applaud every man who proposes. I've never experienced something like that. Of wanting something so deeply, knowing the answer, but also sitting in such an uncertain place.
Yeah.
And so Anya drove me to you, and I set up this whole, like, I'm, like, texting Dylan for, like, the last 2 nights, being like, okay, like, tell all of the guys what, like, where they're, like, standing in the line when they get up for the ceremony. And, like, we're just, like, texting the whole time. And I'm like, I'm going to be there at 10 a.m. on, like, sharp. And so look out for me. And so I, like, set up everything. And Dylan comes out first. And the anxiety when I see Dylan. I'm like, husband number 2, what's up? But it couldn't have been more beautiful. We rented out a mansion cabin. I don't know how you would describe it.
That thing is awesome. That's the coolest Airbnb.
They had, like, a green room. Like, they had just, like, walls of windows and then, like...
Like this crazy massage chair. That was, like, the highlight of that whole place.
Game room. They had some really cool stuff. And so it was just me and Anya. And then all of the guys in the groomsmen party and our pastor. And so everybody comes out with their phones out. And Gavin is taking his sweet-ass time, which I don't really blame you for because you weren't really prepped correctly.
Yeah, so I had been talking to Jamar the whole day because I couldn't have been more excited for them to get married, right? Like, I'm so pumped that they're getting married. So, like, all of the parts of that particular ruse worked perfectly, right? Like, I told Dylan to bring all of his camera gear so that we could film their proposal because I knew that Jamar would go out, like, in the woods and there'd be no footage of it. And, like, that's something you should document. It's fun to document that and be able to look back.
And Jamar doesn't care about those things.
And he just genuinely doesn't care.
Yeah.
So I was like, we're going to look out for Jamar and Nicole because Jamar could care less. So we're going to sneakily film his proposal. So you need to load your car up with camera gear. And Dylan, I'm sure at the time, was like, well, that made telling Gavin why all the camera gear's in the car easy. And so the whole morning, I'm trying to best man Jamar. So I am grilling this dude to find out because his plan was like, she was going to come over that morning and say hi to all the guys. And
she was going to fly from Thailand for a surprise trip.
Well, she'd already been in town, supposedly, and he just hadn't seen her. So,
but it was that was all
That was
ruse.
part of the ruse, yes.
Right.
That she was going to... he flew her in, and it was a surprise and all this other stuff, and he was going to propose to her that day. And so, as I had been informed, she was coming inside. Right? And so I was like, oh, like... I could go put my shoes on, but I'm going to have to take them off. And it's the only pair of shoes I have to lace. So I'm like, I'll just wait for her to come inside. And so then finally people are like, dude, put your shoes on. She's outside. And I'm like, fine. And even then, I'm like taking my sweet time lacing my shoes.
Out onto the deck without the shoes, and then he couldn't figure out how to tie his shoes. Like, well, it was a legitimate 4-minute ordeal to get the shoes on.
Yeah,
Someone started
that's how it
talking
felt for me.
Someone started talking to me, so then I'm like chatting with them, and then someone came
Anya.
inside.
You had to hug Anya and then have a conversation with her while Allie's out there dying of nervousness with their props on a little table in the yard. And
I'm
you're
like
just like
shaking.
still trying to put the shoes on.
Well, because by then I had seen Alli once, but I think I specifically was like, Alli, I want to come give you a hug. And she was like, not yet. And so then I like specifically was like, well, fine, screw you. I'm going to hug somebody. And I went and hugged Anya. And like, I saw you there.
There was
something weird for sure, but I was like, oh, this is just part of my birthday surprise. Like,
yeah.
I definitely didn't think that was what was going to happen.
Really?
I did, because I'd secretly wanted it the whole time to be my wedding and not Jamar's, if I'm being honest with myself.
Or both of our weddings.
Or both. I thought one of the options because, again, I just love the idea of possibility. So, like, there were for sure daydreams of, like, oh, it's going to be a surprise, and Alli and I are going to marry Jamar and Nicole, and they're going to marry us, and, like, it'll be hilarious that we're, like, officiating each other's weddings at the same time, and, like, things like that. But every single time I was like, don't make this about yourself. Just be happy for your friend. And it would always circle back to, like, I desperately wanted it to be about me. And then, so, like, the whole weekend, I'm like, I'd finally given up on, like, it's not going to be about me. Like, I'd finally relinquished it. so I wasn't really like expecting that it was you going to propose. I was like, oh, she's gonna like send me on a scavenger hunt or something. By no means was I like picturing you there nervous. I'm like, oh, she has like props. Like she has a table set up, so like I was picturing like a scavenger hunt, or like she was gonna give me. I secretly thought that you were gonna give me the keys to my old Explorer. That was one of the things I'd entertained. I thought there was a puppy dog involved. I thought of many things.
That's a funny story.
Yeah, I was like, oh, maybe she's getting us a dog because we really want a dog. And then I was like, that's a pretty crazy commitment. I don't think she would just throw that on me. But instead it was marriage.
That's a birthday gift?
Yeah. Which is hilarious because it still feels like a more serious commitment.
A dog, right? Yeah, totally.
All right, so now it's the moment of the proposal. I finally got my shoes on.
Sweet Anya has been supporting me this whole time, right? She's like watching me cry in the car, and I'm like, no, I got this. I'm not going to cry. But big girl. So you finally get your shoes on, and you walk down into the front yard, and I give a 5-minute proposal, which I don't think men do. I think that I really went above and beyond. I'm going to be honest. I had an apple, and I threw it to him, and I said, you're the apple of my eye, and I told him why I feel that way, and then I went through these specific characteristics about why I think he is genuinely one of the best people to spend the rest of my life with. And I even made him... So he wears these hats, which he's not wearing today.
Yeah, for once I'm wearing like a normal hat.
He wears Maui and Sons hats, which have writing on the bill of them. And so one of our favorite songs that we have ever heard from... I mean, the first time we heard it was from Red Rocks Church, but it wasn't written by Red Rocks. But look up Red Rocks Church. They have awesome music.
Yeah, they got some baller worship.
And it's called Reckless Love. And that became my motto, my theme, like the overwhelming arch. I wanted the wedding to really symbolize. And so I created a hat for him that said Reckless Love underneath the bill, which is nothing compared to Maui and Sons hats. Like, they have the most comfortable hats and...
the most complimentable hats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think every time he wears it, he gets a compliment.
Every single time.
Which is great for my already out of control
really low
ego.
Yeah, you haven't we really need to build you up more. I know that you have a small ego, not a lot of confidence.
The most important part of what you're saying, though, is it's an awesome hat. Like, it's really, really cool, and it was a perfect gift, for sure.
So that's how I ended up, was giving him this gift of this Reckless Love hat, right? On the bill it said Reckless Love. And then I asked him to marry me in 5 hours. And so Anya and I left, and they proceeded to continue with the bachelor party, now him knowing that it was all for him. And
I think we went and drove razors again.
Yeah, so me and David Townsend, because Alli being... I really think that's the point of marriage, is you're supposed to make each other better. And as a result, you'll experience a lot of happiness and joy, but, like, I really think most of it's about making each other better. And Alli absolutely does that, and she's really good at making me be thoughtful and intentional and kind of focus my energy. And so before she left with Anya, she gave me like a list of like 3 or 4 relatively small tasks, but just things to like get me centered and like focused so that I didn't just show up like this loose ball of energy. Like, I kind of had direction. And one of the things was to go spend some time with God alone. And so David Townsend and I went up on these awesome razors, which is like, that's the best way to go spend time with God, is go just tear up some 4x4 trails.
Yeah.
And then, like, you park on this beautiful, beautiful mountaintop, and it's overlooking all of Nederland and, like, this beautiful mountain range. And we just, like, spent, like, I don't know, like 15 minutes up there just, like, hanging out and praying. And it was awesome. It was, like, the best part of like, one of the best parts of that whole weekend, for sure. We were just, like, up there. And then we get back, And because we are dudes and it takes us like 15 minutes to get ready, I'm pretty sure everyone got like multiple trips in on the razors while like a group of people would get ready, another group would take the razors out, and then like 4x4 and stuff. And like then I'm pretty sure while we're like all dressed up, we're all like shooting slingshots and like trying to just like have fun. And then Sam shows up with like 15, 20 minutes to get ready. Like he shows up at the last second. I do remember that. Like I don't know if he even had time to shower. Like it was cutting it close for sure. And then I didn't have socks. For whatever reason.
I gave you socks, but they were too loud for the outfit.
Oh, yeah.
They told you not to wear them.
I didn't bring the right socks for the occasion. And then she had, as part of the props, had given me a pair of socks, but they're like these crazy, obnoxious colored socks, which are awesome and comfy, but like it just was the wrong vibe. And so Sam gave me a pair of his socks.
Yeah.
And then we drove over to the venue, and that was a super surreal moment for me because I still didn't know who was going to show up.
Oh, yeah.
I'd not been told that, like, it was a big thing. I'm literally picturing it's like the people that were at the bachelor party, who I assumed was in her bachelorette party, and then like 15 other people. Like I wasn't picturing what it ended up being, which was just like 100 friends and family and my grandparents were there, which I never would have thought.
Right,
like,
you were like talking to someone and you just would not stop talking while your grandparents were showing up from upstate New York that are almost 90 years old, and they're like walking over to you like waving and trying to get your attention, and I'll just have to like grab you and like turn you around and take you to them and be like, look who is here for you.
Yeah, I literally remember. I don't remember who I was talking to. But I do remember Dylan specifically grabbing me. He's like, dude, there's someone you have to, like, someone you need to go talk to right now. And I was like, again, just like, okay. And then I turn around, and it's my Nana and Papa, and I just started, like, weeping right away because I hadn't seen them in years, and they're so amazing. And even if we had planned the wedding a year out, I really didn't even think it was possible for them to travel far enough to, like, get there. And there was a ton of moments like that where it was just like, I can't believe how many people Alli was able to get here. Like, you did such an awesome job of everyone was there. It was so awesome. Like, I was genuinely blown away. I really didn't expect anything more than, like, the groom's party, the bridal party, and then, like, max 20 other people. And instead it was just like everyone in the entire world was there. It was so awesome.
Right. And so I proposed to you 5 hours later. We got married.
Yeah. And we had so much fun getting wedding photos, and like the actual reception was amazing, and everyone pitched in to like make that incredible. And we got to sing karaoke, which was hilarious and so much fun. And yeah, I mean, it was literally like the greatest time.
I gave you a ring pop.
Yeah, that's a fun part of the story, that we got married and gave each other ring pops. I lost $5 to David Townsend.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Because that was actually the same. So in that bachelor party is where we came up with the idea for our card game. Yep. Fardo, which
on Kickstarter soon.
Will be on Kickstarter soon. It's amazingly good time.
Such a fun time.
That bachelor party is what led to that game even coming up, and there was like a silly phrase that came up while we played that, and I bet David the officiant that he couldn't work it seamlessly into our like ceremony, and he actually did it. So I actually was gambling on our wedding, like which is pretty funny. Yeah, I think it's hilarious we didn't get to say our vows, which is so funny. I think.
So in the middle of the ceremony, David looks over at me and he goes, Alli, would you like to say your own vows or just repeat after me? And I was like, both. And he was like, okay. And so we repeat the vows. And then he says, by the power vested in me.
Just skipped right past anything we wanted to say, which is probably best. For me, anyways.
I was like, okay, Gavin loves improv. Gavin loves me.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine. I couldn't sleep all night. All I was doing that whole night was writing my vows. So I was like, it'll be fine. I've already proposed to him and feel pretty vulnerable for doing that already. There's nothing worse. I can't go any further down, essentially. I can't be any more vulnerable than proposing to Gavin. And I had some really funny jokes that I wanted to say.
Do you remember any of them? If not, it's okay. It was a while ago. No, it's
something along the lines of, should I say it now, or are we going to do it?
Oh, yeah, let's save it, because that was one of the fun things, is it gives us, something fun to do on an anniversary party, or, when we do a second reception or something, we can...
I'm going to say it now.
Okay. I'll forget it, and it'll be equally funny next time.
I'm I love you when you win, and I love you when you lose, but especially when you lose against Tom at Spike Ball.
Which has never happened. I'm going on the record. Undefeated. Tom, come at me. What's up, Tom?
Yeah.
It was a beautiful,
or maybe it was
day.
especially when you win, because I actually don't know when you've lost, because I've seen Tom very angry when he's lost against you. So it might have
really
been, I love you when you
summer.
lose,
There's going to be some Joy Quota
and when you
footage of that.
win, but especially when you win against, it was something along
Something like that. Yeah, it was a wonderful day. It was
Shout out to Tom.
It was the best. Seriously, the absolute best.
Yeah, it was a good day. Shout out to all the people who made the trip, kept the secret.
Yeah.
Love us dearly.
Yeah, and that was the craziest part for me, or I guess my favorite part. The wedding was amazing. Everything was incredible, but I couldn't have been more floored by how well everyone took care of you. Right? Because, whenever you care about someone, all you want to do is take care of them, but for roughly 2 months, I couldn't be the one to solve your problems. I couldn't be there to, support you when you did have problems, right? Dylan was taking care of you. Sarissa was taking care of you. JT was all the people that I love took care of you when I couldn't, and that was, the most beautiful gift of just knowing, wow, we couldn't have better people in our lives who love us and support us, and, for them to have gone as above and beyond as they did to help you through this whole thing. I was wow, I really don't think we could ask for better people in our life. That was really cool for me.
I thought that was pretty lame.
No. Well, perfect. Do you feel like you've shared everything you wanted to on the wedding?
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
I'm so sorry it took so long. It's a long one.
It is a story worth telling. Yeah.
This is a probably first in the world. I would.
It's
guess,
not first in the world.
It turns out it's not first in the world.
No.
So I think that subconsciously, I can't remember his name right
There's
now.
someone at Red Rocks who did
Ryan,
something.
I can't remember his last name, but he surprised his fiance with a wedding, or his girlfriend with a wedding. He proposed to her 12 hours before they got married, and it took him 2 years to set up the wedding.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could have done it as fast as you did.
Yeah.
And shout out to her for saying yes and then being married in 12 hours.
The only reason that he did that was because he overheard her saying to one of her girlfriends that she wants to get married the same day that she gets proposed to.
Oh, so he knew ahead of time.
Yeah.
That was like a dream.
Yeah.
Right.
But
okay.
which
is shout out to him.
I would have guessed that would never work that way. The guy, where you have your exact wedding in your mind, right from when you were
I feel
a child. I would imagine
the details.
I was never that girl.
But I feel like a lot of girls,
women are.
Yeah,
I mean, if roles were reversed, that would not have been my ideal wedding.
No, yeah.
I'm somebody who really enjoys certainty, and I enjoy the planning process. And there were moments, during the planning process where I was like, I might actually be taking something away from Gavin right now because he doesn't get to have these conversations with his friends and the people that he really cares about. Like, the only person who's receiving this is me when it should be us, right?
Well, that was actually a big gift, is that I was really, again, I'm such a huge fan of myself that I was already looking forward to being able to tell people, like, look at what a perfect wedding I gave Alli, and, like, look at all the things I did for her, and, like, look at what an awesome guy I am. Like, I had already been envisioning, like, oh, wow, I'm going to, like, sacrifice this, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to get to propose in this way, and all these things that I was like, I'm going to get to be the man. And like, in a way, I get to kind of, like, have the spotlight, which it was such a gift that you gave me, that it was 100% about me, but it wasn't because of me. Like, I didn't get any credit for it. I didn't get anything other than, like, it was about me, but I just had to receive. It wasn't something that I got to, like, take credit for. It was just I had to sit there and be, like, insanely overwhelmed with, like, gratitude and humility and just, like, all of these experiences and emotions, but none of it came from a place of me getting to take credit for it, which is, like, the most beautiful gift you could give someone like myself, right? Like, that was one of the coolest parts of the whole process. So it's hilarious that at points you thought you were like, oh, I'm taking this away. Like, taking the credit away from me was one of the greatest things you could have done, for sure.
That's great news.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there were people who are close to both you and I who would reach out to me just randomly during that process. And they'd be like, you should tell him now, like, at this point in the process, because yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And then we'd get closer and they'd be like, you should tell him now because of these reasons, right? And so, like, and they were doing it out of love.
Well,
like, it was, like, not to, like...
There was... It's a weird that I found out 5 hours beforehand. And it's even weirder that I could have found out 5 minutes beforehand, and it wouldn't have been any weirder.
So one of the ideas about proposing to you was that I was going to video record my proposal, and then at the ceremony, you were just going to show up to Jamar's wedding, and then at the ceremony, they were just going to press play when you showed up close enough that by the time you walked up the aisle, it ended with, will you marry me? Like, I would already...
Oh, that would have been nuts. I'd take some real serious choreography to get that just right. True.
Okay. True. Well, we didn't go with that way for multiple reasons, because, number one, I was like, I don't know if I want you to be able to say your vows, but I want you to have enough time to say them. Right? Like, I wanted you to figure it out first.
Which I put no thought
Well, you didn't get to say them. So.
Which is hilarious, yeah. But, like, even if I had, like, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be feeling all of the feelings then. I should just go with what I'm feeling. Right? Because it's just who I am. That I was like... That was part of the reason
that we were like, that's an option. We can legitimately just put him on
the spot.
Walk him up to the starting line.
I would change nothing, for sure. It was perfect.
I know.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Good.
What a good day. One, I feel like, I guess there's a little bit of time left. I feel like you do some really fun things with your time. I know you do a lot of amazing wood burning now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you've gotten really good at it. But more specifically, I feel like you have one of the neatest part-time jobs anyone will ever have. Like, ongoing. It's such a cool gig. Tell us about that.
Okay, so part-time, I work at the Denver Aquarium. I'm on the dive ops team, and just on a daily basis, I get to throw on a tail and swim around as a mermaid.
It's the raddest. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, something that is really exciting to me is joy is something that we don't take seriously a lot. I feel like it's really easiest for us to get into like the 9 to 5 rut, right? Where we're like, oh, like the weekend's over, I have my job on Monday, and like we lose something so sparkly, right? So magical that happens when we have free time and we have money to burn and we have things to do with people that we love, right? And I had found myself in a position where I couldn't enjoy my evenings or my weekends because I was just so upset with how I was spending the majority of my day. And
this was the job that Dylan and I campaigned for Alli to leave.
Yeah. So Gavin, being the wonderful man that he is, had bought us a ticket to LA. This gets to go on record. This is so funny.
Tell away. God, I forgot about this part of the story. I think I just repressed it.
Okay, so I went to Mexico because my mom is just the best human. Shout out to my mom in the wedding, by the way.
Yeah.
Holy moly. Okay, and then so in December of 2017, my mom, being so gracious and kind, brought me to Mexico, and we went scuba diving. My brother and I, Lauren, his girlfriend, and my mom all went scuba diving, and we paid for my mom because obviously she's the most wonderful woman.
Yeah.
So we're down in the water, and I've always loved water. I was one of the captains of the swim team in high school, and it's always been this really special place for me. And so when we were in the water, I was talking, or even just that whole week that we were there, I was talking to the scuba dive team. And I was like, I think that I'm just going to not go back to Colorado. I'm just going to stay here. I'm going to join your team. I'm going to become a scuba diver, and I'm going to take people on trips. And they were like, honestly, we're looking for people. So you could. And it really kind of shattered some walls for me. And I was like, well, why don't I do this? And there were all these things that came into my mind about like building a career and being close to my friends and family and Gavin and all these things that were so important to me about my life now. And so when I went back to Colorado, I was like, Gavin, I was thinking about moving to Mexico and becoming a scuba dive instructor. And he was like, I'd do that, no doubt. And so we're sitting there. He's picked me and my mom up from the airport, and we're sitting at lunch, and he goes, Alli, I bought you your Christmas present. We're going to see one of your favorite artists in LA in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
A couple weeks, yeah. And so the day of our flight to LA comes up, and we're all excited, and we have a friend come pick us up, and he takes us to the airport, and we're like, see ya in a bit, we're about to go have the best time. And we go up to the gate, or we go up to the
ticket counter.
The kiosk, actually.
Yeah.
And the kiosk is like, we don't have tickets for you. Essentially, it was like, you need to go see an agent. Please go see an agent. And so we walk up to the ticket counter, and immediately Gavin realizes we're an hour late. Like, we show up at the time of departure. Is that accurate?
I think it was even worse. I think I just booked the wrong day. I'd booked them for the day before, I think, because I'd been looking at a bunch of different flights on a bunch of different days, trying to, like, maximize our time in LA. Right. And there was a lot of back and forth whether or not you'd be able to get the time off from work. And I'd been I tried too hard to plan it. That was really where I fell apart. Like, usually I just, like, choose something, go with it, and then find a way to make it work. This time I'm like, I'm going to plan the shit out of this. It's going to be perfect to the last detail. And of the 5 different pages of flights I had open, I booked the wrong flight. And so we showed up for a flight, but it was the wrong day. It was for the day before is when I booked it. So we just didn't have flights.
And so the woman actually was super nice. She was like, we can actually get you out. She was like, truly, this is above and beyond. She was like, we can get you out I'm not going to charge you any money. We'll get you out at 8 a.m. tomorrow or something like that. And we were like, oh, well, we'll miss the concert. Like, the concert was, I can't remember, but the timing didn't work out. But it was like, shout out to that woman because...
Yeah, because it was like a couple $100 to change the flight.
But she was
But she wasn't going to charge us to, like, get on the next flight, even though it was more expensive. And, like, she tried to make it work for us, but we're like, yeah, we're both kind of broke right now.
And
we're just going to have to eat. I was just like, cool, I'm just going to have to eat this whole vacation that I'd planned. Like, I'm just going to... That's spent money, babe.
And you even got insurance. I remember you being so angry.
Oh, yeah, because that was
insurance.
the only time I'd ever gotten travel insurance. And so I called them like, hey, it didn't work out. This is why I bought travel insurance.
Right.
And they're like, actually, no, you bought travel insurance so you could pay us $40. Eat a dick.
Yeah.
That was basically how the conversation went. So never buy travel insurance. It was useless.
Yeah. It was horrible.
Yeah. They're like, you don't get any of your money back. You spent $40 per person for no reason on this travel insurance. I was livid.
Right.
I spent weeks trying to get
it. Most insane part of this.
Because I was like, for once I did the smart thing and I got the insurance, it literally serves no purpose. That I can
that's
I'm
literally
pretty
the entire point of this thing, and it's not going to do...
I'm furious
at this point. Like, that's
so
insane.
we're sitting there. We don't even have a car to get home. We go down to like see if we can get on a train, but this is when Denver was having like weird train issues.
Yeah, the train wasn't running.
We would have had to take a bus home or something like that.
It was because the train our car wasn't at our house in Denver. It was at Brittany's house in Aurora, and there wasn't a train that got there. So it would have been take a train, take a bus, take an Uber, just to get to our car. So we're like, shit, now we don't even have a way back to our car.
Right.
I'm feeling so ashamed.
But we're, like, I really applaud us in this moment because we're both like we love each other, and this was an accident. We missed our flight on accident. It really wasn't like...
Yeah, a month from now, this will be funny.
Yeah.
Right now, heartbreaking. But a month from now, this will be funny.
So Gavin's like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do? And so we get an Uber, the best Uber ride of our lives, honestly. Yeah. Because we are in such a weird state, number one. Like, we're, like, laughing and crying and... Like, we're just in a really high-intensity kind of state. And the Uber driver has, like, snacks and, like... a ton of stuff in the back of his car. Like, he has, like, just, like, you, like, rip open this pouch, and there's just, like, stuff for you to have.
Well, yeah,
and
it was
so
like
we're
that.
Like a piñata, or...
Yeah.
Pretty much,
Like, he just had, like a sack. Or sack's the wrong word. Like a shelf on the back of his seat, and it had, like, different types of candy. And, like, waters and, like, soda. It was amazing.
Shout out to that Uber driver, because that was before you could even tip them.
Yeah, this guy was just doing it because he was a boss.
Damn.
I feel like it was.
Truly.
I feel like it was a real touched by an angel moment.
It
like
was.
That was just like,
the whole thing. And so we get back to the house, and I've decided that I want to go to the aquarium. And so we call up.
Because we're like, we can't go to the beach. We're gonna go to the closest thing we can.
A lot of different people, but I'm like, no. We only called up Viv and Trey.
Yeah.
So we call it Viv and Trey, and they're like, yeah, we would love to come to the aquarium. And so we all go to the aquarium together, and the mermaid, we're walking past Exhibit 12 that I know dearly now. And this music starts, and we're like, what is that? And then we're like, oh, I think a mermaid show is going to start. So we, like, elbow kids out of the way.
Yeah, we're, like, pressed against the glass.
And we're sitting there, and I see my first mermaid show, and these girls that I work with now, like, I see these, like, beautiful women go down and do this mermaid show, and I'm just, like, enamored, because I just can't believe that people are getting paid to do something so fun and so unique, and I had just wanted to leave my whole life to become a scuba dive instructor, and I was so upset at my job, and I was like, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And so we leave the aquarium, and so for about 6 weeks, I could almost, like, tag it to the day, I had just been thinking about these women. I'm like, they get paid to swim in tails with stingrays and eels and angelfish and all of these, and sharks even, and all of these creatures that I so badly want to be around all the time. Like, I want to do that all the time. And so I call up the aquarium and I ask them if they're hiring, and I come in for what I call Navy SEALs training to become a mermaid.
It was serious, for sure.
Yeah. And so...
Huge shout out to the aquarium, by the way. They run such a cool program there.
Absolutely.
She was practicing in our...
living room
of all her routines. She has to memorize dances and like where to
lip sync
be,
everything.
Yeah.
lots of spinning and yes, I remember
Much
there's lots of this.
twirling.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. Shout out to the aquarium. Go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so our shows consist of anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes of a choreographed dance, as well as us speaking about recycling and how it affects the planet, but most importantly, the oceans.
And some of it's like genuinely like theater, like
Oh, yeah.
with real plot lines and stuff. It's awesome.
Absolutely. And so definitely come see it. It changed my whole world. I'm sure it'll affect you and your family. So
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so how long have you been mermaiding now?
2 years.
Yeah.
2 years in April.
Which is amazing.
I can officially say that. I'm a real mermaid, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And to tie back into our wedding story, she slapped her tail on the actual like marriage license
Certificate.
And so there's a stamp of, and then I'm gonna roll my tire across it in the same color paint, and that because you can like customize them in Colorado.
In Colorado.
So
for forever. So they fit me into a tail. So these tails are super expensive. They're like anywhere between $1,200 and $1,500, if not more expensive. And the tail that they made for me was even a little bit more expensive because they put in a specific kind of monofin that we were testing out, which is really amazing, truly an amazing monofin. But I show up to the aquarium, and because my boss is the coolest person in the whole entire world, I was like, I have
a very strange request.
I have water-soluble ink. Can I use one of the tails as a stamp? And she was like, yeah, I did not hear that, but yes.
Yeah.
Right? And so I go upstairs and I find the tail that they fitted me, which is like not every girl gets fitted for a tail, but there's like an Alli tail, which is just so cool. And so I go upstairs and I get to use that specific tail to stamp the wedding certificate. So...
yeah, it's super awesome.
But yeah, so I guess to conclude the mermaid story, I found this concept that brought me a lot of joy in a place where I kind of felt safe, right? So I didn't have to move to Mexico to become a scuba dive instructor, but I knew that I was so passionate about scuba diving. I knew that I just love being in the water, and I knew that I was also really upset with how I was making a really good income. Right? Like, I can't have any bad words about the amount of money that I was making or what I was doing. I just was really unhappy in the environment for my 9-to-5 job. And then I found a way to create joy. Truly, like, I giggle all the time when I'm in a tail. I'm like, I'm a mermaid. Like, I truly get to be this person. Like, I've been able to be like a mermaid princess for these girls who are still, they have vivid imaginations and they want this, right? They want me to spin them a wonderful story, and I get to do that, so.
Yeah, that's a super amazing gig for sure, and
yeah.
Big props to the aquarium for giving you such a sweet little place to be and little home and
right?
Community to have. We just about there. I feel like
well, one question I did want to ask that we talked about a little bit before is, what is it like to live with two such weirdos?
Yeah.
What is your opinion on that?
Okay, well, I have a beautiful segue into this.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons that I felt so driven to actually apply to be a mermaid was because I live with you two. Because options are endless when you live with Dylan Fole and Gavin Malcolm. Truly, nothing is off the table, and everything is supported. And if there is any hole in your plan, they will find it and they will game plan it until it is cemented and spackled and painted, right?
Yeah.
Like there will be no holes left in your plan, right? So like when I came to them and I was like, I think I want to be a mermaid, it was all hands on deck. Of course, like, do it. There was nothing in the world that they would ever say no to. Like, options are endless with you two. So,
You guys, I'm going to leave this podcast with some chores to do, I promise.
yeah, truly. I'm telling you, windows, counters. No, I'm just kidding. So it's a beautiful thing, and especially when I'm in really hot, like dark moments, because I feel like being a woman, we're affected differently by our emotions. So when I'm affected by negative emotions, it takes me to a place that nobody wants to be around. When you guys are affected with negative emotions, it's like compartmentalized, and you can like use that energy for other things, essentially.
Yeah,
Do you guys
I know
agree?
what you're saying, yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, like,
For the most part.
if I'm frustrated, I'll just work hard at whatever I'm doing to burn up the frustration. Like, the frustration is fuel.
Right, and
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, leave me here. Leave me.
I must be miserable. Yeah.
Right, and so in those moments, it's really nice to have people like you, because it gives me an out to be silly and grateful, and you can ruin my bad mood, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing off the table for you guys. So you'll come up with crazy party ideas, and then for the next 4 days of your life is all coming up with the best way to create that crazy party, right?
Yeah.
Or, oh, it just snowed this week. We're going urban sledding,
Yeah.
right? So, like, urban sledding is when you get behind, you tie a rope to a car, and then that car takes you while you're sledding / snowboarding all around the city,
It's a good time.
right? So, like, there's
Yeah, we're
all
like,
these...
we're sledding off the roof today. And you're like, cool.
Right. Right. So there's all these moments of magic. And then sometimes I'm like, y'all, be practical.
Yeah.
But that's where I come in, right?
Yeah, we have
That's
a
my
great
little-
setup.
Alli is our voice of reason.
What? And I love that we all live together, because, like, there are times where, like, I'm just too close to the situation to be the one that gets to, like, ruin Allie's bad mood. Because it's what I love doing the most is, like, if she's in a funk, breaking her out of it.
Right.
And there are times where, like, I'm just not allowed to be that person. For whatever reason, I'm too close to the situation, or, like, it's just too sensitive of a situation where, like, it feels too vulnerable for me to be the one to, like, break her out of the mood. And then I just kind of have to, like... I just picture, like, Top Gun. I'm just like, I got no shot! And I just, like, pull out. And then, like, a half hour later, Dylan will come in and, like, be doing something interesting, or they'll talk, and before I know it, like, she's in a good mood, or like, he's been able to kind of help her through whatever she was dealing with. And that's my favorite part, for sure, is that, like, as much as I'd like to be the guy every single time, it's really wonderful that I don't have to be, right? Because there are times where, like, it can't be.
Right.
So that's my favorite part of us all living together, besides Dylan's cooking.
Oh my gosh. Dylan's cooking,
Yeah.
though. That is
It's a serious bonus.
yeah, and a podcast for a later time where all we do is talk
Actually,
about
he's got
the
some
joy.
awesome videos. There's a video of
check it out on my
Yeah.
YouTube channel.
cookies, yeah. What else is there anything else that comes up when you think of living with, like, the two most strange
really,
individuals?
I think that the biggest, like, the most consistent thing at our house is the amount of brainstorming that happens.
Yeah.
Like, there is...
A lot of think tanks.
Yeah. And it's like a really open, safe environment, right? So, like, like you guys will have like these crazy ideas where you truly just sit silently listening to the other person until they've gotten it all out, and then the other person will negotiate essentially.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, well, what about this? Oh, how does this work? And an actual framework happens. Like you guys talk about like okay, if we built a bobsled, how are we actually going to get the sled to work if we don't have a good winter?
Yeah.
All of these ideas are on the playing field, and that's for every idea. And me growing up in the house that I grew up in, it wasn't like that. We were very like, why reinvent the wheel, essentially,
Okay.
right? It was like, we already have a given path, just follow the path and you're gonna get to the result that you need to get to. But with you guys, it's like,
There's a path. How do we get off?
Yeah, totally.
That I feel like for both of us that is learned behavior, right? Like for me in particular, like studying writing and editing and all this, like you can never tell somebody no. Like you don't want to tell a writer or a joke person like, no, that's awful. You say, okay, well,
Why?
What about this?
Why?
Right.
And then for Gavin, it's like he's studied relationships and bettering himself so much that he would be kind of the same way. It's like different paths to the same result that we're like we build on each other through that. Like it's never like no. It's more like okay. Yeah, all right, where do we go from there? Like, okay, let's take it from this idea. Okay, let's like take it, what if
Let's
we
make
take
it
it
a
this
goal.
direction?
If the
Dream
idea doesn't
to
work as it
goal.
stands, I usually assume that I don't know enough of why this is important, it needs to happen, or we just haven't found the solution to make it happen yet, right? Like it's either like, I don't see why you want to go through all this effort, and so like that'll be the questions that I'll ask is like, all right, like clearly you're excited about this. How do explain why this is so important, and then as soon as I know that, it's easy to get on board. Or it's, all right, that seems hard to do. What can we do to chip away at it, right? Like that. And I feel like we both spent a lot of time around, like our parents. I feel like were a lot more just like, go figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? Like, even if my dad had the solution, or like he knew he could do it better, he would just be like, yeah, like, go do that terribly. And then when it breaks and you eventually ask me for help on like, how do I make a ramp that doesn't collapse so I don't hit my face? Then he would help me. But he's like, I want you to kind of work your way through it and kind of struggle bus it at least a little bit. So yeah, it's definitely learned behavior. For sure. That like that need to kind of just like problem solve your way through it and until you have the answers. And it's to me, I get a tremendous amount of sense of satisfaction from making my own path. Like there are very specifically times I will take the harder path that I know I probably can't do specifically because it's not the path. Like I know for a fact this path will take me there and it's short and it's easy, and a lot of times I specifically rebel against like I know that works, but what if this works? Like just to see if I can come up with my own path instead of going with what already exists.
Yeah, I don't do that very often. And when I do, I get mad at it usually.
If it doesn't work real quick, for sure.
Yeah, that's just how I am.
Well, I feel like we've kind of hit a good point to stop at. We always love to end with the question, what do you think of when you think of joy? Or when you think of your joy quota and how you feel it, what memory or memories come to mind, what moments? It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could be something super small from chasing a friend in a field to a concert.
Always a good time.
Yeah, so it doesn't need to be like a crazy piece of story or any food. It could literally be anything, but it's just a fun place to kind of cap it all off.
So I'm lucky enough to have a really awesome example. Okay, so this last weekend, we had Kim and JT over for the podcast, and then I learned that Dylan was going ice racing that weekend, and he invited me to go with him. And I was kind of like, well, I'm not really sure. Number one, I had plans with another friend on that day that I had to reschedule, which was totally worth it. And we had to wake up so early. I woke up at like 5:20 so I could get out the door by 6 because that's how women work. And the reason, so I went ice racing at Georgetown Lake with my best bud Dylan, and I showed up there not even sure if I was going to drive. And I have this need, this desire for certainty that I never used to have. I'm not exactly sure what happened in the last few years, but I have such a deep desire to know everything, that I can know about everything ever. And truly, that's not exaggeration. Like, I just want to know where my life is headed in the next 10 years, 20 years. Like, give me the whole timeline. It would make me super content and happy. And so I wasn't sure if I was going to go actually drive on this iced over lake in Dylan's Audi, but we get there and I mean, I have you two in my life, and so obviously I'm going to drive. And so Dylan and I get out on the ice and we're having a really good time. And I'm learning a little bit, and truly my heart is in my throat, which is so crazy to me. I feel like I used to be this like really adventurous person, but my heart is truly in my throat. I stopped breathing. I'm on the track for 45 seconds and I didn't breathe the whole time. Dylan was like, how did that feel? And I'm like, I forgot to breathe. And so it was this awesome moment of joy because I was doing something that I forgot that I could do, right? Like, and on top of that, Dylan and I get out the door at 6 a.m. and I turn to him and I'm like, Dylan, my mom wanted to come. And he's like, invite her. And so my mom shows up with our beautiful dog and we get to go race the tracks with 4 of my favorite individuals.
Yeah, Copper chilling in the back seat was so awesome.
Yeah.
One time second to last lap in practice, I left my window down because in the race you have to have it down so you can see the track personnel and all this.
Yeah.
So I was just practicing leaving it down, and then I finish my lap, and then I just go do this massive slide through a foot deep of powder, and just coat myself in snow. And I'm just like, oh yeah, the window was down. Oops. And then don't even think anything of it. I kind of like brush it off, whatever. Go drive back, park. Kind of laughing about it. Meet up with Alli. She was out taking photos. And then we get out of the car, and then I just kind of look through the window and see Copper just covered in snow. Yeah. And he didn't whine, he didn't bark. He was just like chilling there in the back seat, covered in a blanket of snow.
Blanket of snow. It was so funny.
Yeah, it's literally just snow and then like a little Australian shepherd head sticking out like a snowman.
Yeah.
He's the greatest.
So that was a nice moment of joy because I got to do something that I didn't realize. I don't know. It was just I didn't really realize that I could be good at it, you know? Mm-hmm. And I figured it out, and the more I figured it out, the more excited I was to drive. And then I got to do it with people that I truly care about, and it was nice.
Oh, yeah, that sounded like a super good time. I was working on Joy Quota stuff. And so
we broke the bumper.
Yeah. Shout out to...
That'll cost you.
Yeah. Pull one out
of course,
for the
the entire time, Allie's like, I don't want to wreck your car, blah blah blah, and I'm probably not gonna drive. I'm like, what could go wrong? Nothing's gonna happen. It'll be fine. There's literally, it's snow. You couldn't do anything. And then we ripped the bumper off.
Yeah.
But of all things to break, the bumper.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. It was still drivable. We still got home. We still,
Yeah.
They missed that avalanche. There was an avalanche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
'Cause
I actually
I-
didn't think about that. We legitimately missed the avalanche.
I mean, it was
It was farther up the road,
up
so
than
you
us,
wouldn't have
but,
been-
but I
okay.
had told
That's
her
true.
the entire time, because it was a powder day. There was like a foot of snow at the ski resorts, and
Yeah.
I'm going driving instead of snowboarding, which is like,
insane.
I mean, they're both my favorite thing in the world, so it's like, yeah, what do you do?
One
but
way
if
or
I
the
would have
other.
gone to Copper, I either would have been washed away in the avalanche or stuck in traffic for 90 years.
Seriously.
Oh, yeah. People got ferociously stuck. Well, perfect. That's an awesome place to end, is some sweet Icetown racing.
Georgetown ice racing.
No. I said it, and then I was like, maybe no one will come. And
Icetown King George.
yeah, King George.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect.
Icetown George racing.
Thank you, Allie, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you
Thanks,
so much.
guys. I love you guys
Love you
too.
mucho.